to another special Unsourced Wall Livestream. We're bringing here to everyone today a special kind of roundtable discussion of the Sony Marvel universe of Marvel characters of the Some C, or some people call it the Spum C as well when they're being a little cheeky, which is Sony's attempt at the whole cinematic universe thing. They saw how well Marvel was doing with the MCU, and they're like, we could probably do it, and they're giving it the old college try. We have three movies out, each with different amounts of interconnectedness, and it's been quite a ride. But I'm joined here with two special guests. If you could just kind of introduce yourselves, and let's get this rolling.
Yeah, I'm AJ. You all may know me if you listen to the Comics Code Authority podcast. I'm typically on with Elvis talking about comic news, but I'm here on his channel today to talk about these Sony Marvel films.
Yep. Hi, I'm Andreas. On Twitter and online, I'm known as Comrade Bullski, and I'm here to talk about Sony with Elvis and AJ.
Thanks to have you guys here. I think the last couple of times we've done something like this, either on one of our own channels, it's always been a really great experience. And I just want to do this discussion. Now we had planned this. If you listen to like our Let There Be Carnage review or our Eternals review like ages ago, I was like, when Morbius comes out, let's just do like a giant kind of like retrospective. And so that's what this is. And I'm really excited to get at it. Um, and it's been quite a journey. I don't think anyone expected Morbius to come out after such a long time. It's been like 2 years since it was meant to come out, since the first trailer. But okay, I feel like the best way to go about this should be like one at a time. Like let's start with the movie that started it all, um, and let's take a big look at Venom.
Spider-Man.
I wish. Uh, let me just get to that. There we go. Venom. 2018. Have I got that right? 2018.
I think so. I'll
It's
check to verify.
every year feels like the same after Venom came out. It's always on my
Yes, it
mind.
was 2018.
2018. Yeah, the
What a
last two
year.
years. What happened to the last 2 years? I want to know.
Four.
Yeah,
Oh,
jeez.
Oh God, yeah, that it is 2022. Jesus.
Yeah, no, I just felt like, oh, it's 2019, right? But, it's been, yeah.
so Venom. I feel like this movie when this was announced, everyone was. I feel like the prevailing notion was one of either disgust or curiosity. Like, how can they do a Venom film? Why is Sony doing this? We're fresh off the heels of Homecoming, that big, amazing Spider-Man reboot. Yeah, so fresh, so new. It's entirely about high school. We got this kid looks 12. It's brand new days for Spider-Man. And then like
Yeah.
Sony's coming to ruin it with this film that no one wants, about one of the most popular characters ever created. It's a film that no one could possibly want. you know, it started a movement. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Um, what were your guys' thoughts on Venom when this was first announced, Comrade?
Um, so this is not the first time that they tried to get a Venom solo movie going. Like back when they were doing, I think the Raimi movies, they after they did Spider-Man 3, they were talking about doing a Venom solo movie back then. But that wouldn't have been like the same Venom that appeared in Spider-Man 3. He blows up at the end and he's also kind of lame. So when they announced this, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be another like project that just gets mothballed endlessly. Like the various tie-in movies that they tried to the Amazing Spider-Man movies. You were gonna get like the Black Cat movie and the Sinister Six movie and all of that. I was like, yeah, this isn't happening.
They're
And
gonna
then
make
it,
those though. You got We're
well,
almost
now,
there.
now, now they might, but it's a new continuity. But yeah, no, I don't know. I was like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be that great, even if it does happen. So mild resignation, I guess. I had no strong feelings really.
What about you, AJ?
Yeah, I was in the camp of I guess we can say confused. I really didn't think. I didn't understand how they were going to make it work, but keeping it detached from Spider-Man. Peter Parker is so integral to basically the introduction of Venom. Like, how were they going to make that work? And they went their own direction with it. I agree with more of it than I disagree with it, but it seems like it's doing all right for them so far. But yeah, I was very confused when it got announced, especially seeing as how Sony had been trying their hardest to be interconnected with the MCU, and then they were telling us, "Oh, this is its own little thing," which of course they lied. But at the time going into it, I just didn't see how it would work. But it's doing okay so far.
Yeah, I was in the camp where I'm like, all right, Venom movie, okay, why not? Okay, I had no strong feelings for it. Not like now where I have very strong feelings about this movie, but back then, not really, not a lot. And it was one where I had this kind of feeling where like, yes, Spider-Man is such an integral part of this film, but Venom himself is just an alien movie. Like it's a parasite film. Like it's so easy to lift Spider-Man out, especially
Hmm.
if you're going by like the original
Yeah.
solo Venom comics. Like he had his own rogues gallery of villains. He had his own dynamics of characters. He's had like various long ongoings for like 40 years now. It's
Right.
is a lot to pull from. So when you hear a lot of like no one wanted this or like there's nothing they can do or they're gonna butcher the character, like the character is versatile. The character has proved its longevity. Like it's felt a little bit overblown. Let's say, and the funniest thing was when it came out, I watched and like, you know what, this is the movie I think that they always should have made. Like when you hear about like, yes, they were expecting a movie after Spider-Man 3, but when you hear about those plans for that movie, about how it was like going to be about Eddie Brock and Carnage growing up in the same orphanage, and like, oh, one became a crusading reporter and one's a serial killer. Oh no, like, all this overextended stuff, and they're like, no, this is very simple, straight to the point. It's an alien parasite movie. It's like Species, It's like the astronaut's wife. It's it's kind of that kind of like schlocky early 2000s, kind of like very simplified horror sci-fi kind of thing with a lot of comedy as well. And like, okay, it works. It works in that very niche, simplified way. And like, oh, it's good. Okay, I it was a fun $12 at my local budget cinema, and I left very happy. And then a lot of things exploded on the internet, but we'll get to that in just a second. I want to hear what your thoughts are on it. Comrade, when you watched the movie the first time, what do you think of it?
I thought it was fine. Like, I had a good time watching it. I watched it with some friends, which I think is the best way to watch that kind of movie. Like, it was fun, schlocky, throwback movie. Like, it was the kind of movie they made 20 years back, more or less. And yeah, Tom Hardy really liked that part. Yeah, like I could really feel that he put a lot of effort into it all the time, and that really helped the movie for me. So yeah, good times.
And you, AJ?
Yeah. I did not go see Venom when it first came out. I think
Jacques
it was.
Hughes. I saw it
I,
opening day. True story.
and now I wish I would have, but I think I saw it probably like a week before the Blu-ray was getting ready to come out. Matinee at that time, it was like, hey, I don't have anything to do today. Go to a $5 matinee, check it out. And I was really impressed. My expectations were very much exceeded. Now by that time, we had already heard from people saying, hey, this is actually a pretty decent movie. But still, like I said, the whole disconnection from Spider-Man, I'm wondering, okay, how is it gonna work? I go to the film, watch it, and I spent a pretty good portion of it laughing my ass off. So I'm like, huh, okay, they did something. They went in a direction where, yeah, is not the Venom that I grew up knowing, but it works on its own, and that was kind of refreshing when we're in this age of everything has to be connected. So at least for the first movie, they made it a standalone, It really worked. Like Tom Hardy is having the time of his life.
Yeah.
It seems like
Yeah.
during that film. So I was very pleasantly surprised. And like I said, I went the week before it was hitting Blu-ray. The next week I bought it and just made sure to watch it. I probably waited maybe a week or two after it came out, just sitting on my shelf, but watched it, and I was still having a good time with it. So I'm pleasantly surprised by what they were able to do with that first film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to buy it when it comes out in like the Sony Marvel Universe Phase 1 box set. I'm
Okay.
waiting for that. Maybe it'll be like in the shape of a Life Foundation canister. That'd be
Hmm.
fun. I'll wait for that release. Some premium stuff. But no. In all honesty, yeah, I feel like there was this small brief period, and that might still be going on. We'll see how a couple of these other movies work. Where like comic book movies, even Sony, WB, even Marvel to a little extent with like Ant-Man around 2017 or something like that, um, where they were like, let's strip this down. Because you had like Wonder Woman, solitary, stand alone, very simplified, aspects kind of streamlined, all that kind of stuff. Then you had
Hmm.
Shazam,
Yeah.
stand alone, simplified, streamlined, Aquaman, simplified, really long, but still very simplified, streamlined, kind of like lots of aspects of Aquaman, all that kind of stuff. And like it was like a golden age. I'm gonna call that a golden age of comic book movies because it was, you could go and like, okay, we're unburdening ourselves. Like, yes, Aquaman fed into something, yes, Wonder Woman fed into something, but like you could feel all these aspects of the character is just like, we're going to focus on what makes this character unique. Like Aquaman, you had Ocean Master, you had Atlan, you had New 52 stuff, you had old school PKD stuff, no PAD stuff, and all this kind of like influences that were just congealed of what made this character really memorable throughout the decades, and they went old school in a lot of these places, and I thought like that was really fun, really entertaining, and it's what makes like comic movies like interesting and worthwhile, because when you go see them, you're seeing a movie that's specifically about this character and their mythology and their brand. And Venom does that really well. Maybe not to the extent that I liked. I feel like the movie is a little short, and I think Tom Hardy said that about like 40 minutes of the film was like cut out, and I believe that. I believe that so much because like it goes from like setup to like nothing but climax in like 2 seconds
Hmm.
straight.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and if I had like a big problem with the movie, I think that would be about it. Like because I wish it was longer. I wish that we saw a little bit more. I think that one of the biggest complaints of the movie is that there wasn't a lot of character stuff. The trailers for this film really emphasized character, really emphasized tone, atmosphere, depth. Like you had like those demons inside us, or like face your inner demons, or there's a darkness in us all, that kind of stuff. But you don't really get that. And I think the way it's shaked out, it's better that way because you could focus a lot more on this buddy comedy kind of routine. But it does mean that there's a lot less interesting character work in between scenes. And like it does make it feel a little bit more airy. And like if there was more substantial cut of this somewhere, I want to see it. But that's my biggest complaint. What were some of the things that you didn't quite gel with in this film, Comrade?
Yeah, what you said, the length is. I mean, on the one hand, it moves along at a very brisk pace. But yeah, there is definitely things I would have liked to see explored a little more in the movie, and I think it would have held up because I think Tom Hardy's performance and the lady who plays Anne, who is also very good. I forget her name at the moment, but she's also very good. They have good actors
Michelle
in that.
Williams, you cur.
Thank you, Kerr. But yeah, no, but they have good actors in that movie, so I think they totally could have held up to be a little bit longer. Um, then I don't know if this is a problem for me, but I find the symbiote fight scenes. There's not that much of it in the first one. It's more of a thing with the Carnage movie, but when the symbiotes are fighting, I found it very hard to find out to actually see what was going on. It was very much a little bit of a Transformers, Michael Bay Transformers situation where they're grappling, and I have no idea which character is which, and you know what's going on really. But that becomes a lot more pronounced in the second movie, though.
I feel like this is that's really funny you bring that up because it reminds me of when that trailer came out when it showed like the big climactic fight scene and like how like they burst apart and like that only exists so that we could see the actors' faces. Like that's such a funny, such a funny way to translate that thing. Like, oh, the hero's mask or helmet got damaged because like these are living masks, so that literally never happened.
Yeah,
that this is like this big, like it slows down. It's a slow motion scene too. We're like, why did they blow apart? It makes no sense. But it's also, I mean, what I like about that. I do think this movie has better fight scenes than the second movie. If only because it has my favorite cliche of like when whatever is empowering, whatever weapons the hero and the antagonist have, they still go at it. Like I love it. I love seeing that. Like so when Eddie and Riz Ahmed, not Elon Musk,
Drake something.
Carlton Drake.
Carlton Drake, exactly.
When they lose like Riot and Venom, why do I not remember that guy's name? I remember Riot, if I don't remember Carlton Drake. When they lose their symbiotes and like they're dazed for a second and they just run at it to just start pummeling each other again. I love it. I love it. It just shows little touches like that give a scene energy. I'm like, that's a nice. I love it. Fun little beat. But yeah, overall, it's like the difference between really, really dark navy and black. Like you can't tell the difference between that. You can't. What about you, AJ?
But as you say, it's not that much of a problem in the first one because it's a pretty brief and they vary up the fight scene as well, so it's good. Yeah, that was what I wanted to say.
No problem. How about you, AJ? What were the things you didn't quite like?
See, with the first movie, it's not a ton, and Comrade really touched on it. That last fight scene, not being able to tell who was who at parts. Like I was rewatching it over the weekend. It's a part where I'm wondering, like, did both of them just combine into one symbiote at one point? Like it. A couple shots could have really used some more time with the visual effects house working on some of those shots. So that's my beef. Then how the fight ends with him basically, he doesn't beat right. He just tears up the ship. So I'm kind of like, all right, that's fine. But that's nitpicky here, really. And then the other thing, there are a couple shots, and this is extremely nitpicking. And if you don't live in Atlanta, you would never, and you've never been to San Francisco, you would not know it. That car chase that is supposed when Venom is escaping the guys that
on the bike
has sent after him. Yes,
that's fun. Chase, that's a fun scene.
Yes, it's supposed to be San Francisco. It is not. That is Georgia State's campus. Because they passed the Rialto Theater like 6 times, and I'm like, no, I passed that theater every day on the way to class. That is not downtown San Francisco. But like I said, if you don't live in Atlanta or if you don't live in Frisco, you're not gonna know that they're lying to you. But other than that, that's it.
I would never have been able to tell if you didn't tell me.
Exactly.
Like, I have no idea.
Like big long word downwards sloping street. It's gotta be San Francisco. That's my mindset. Like San Francisco slopes downward. That's all you need to do to convince me.
Yeah, and there's an ocean. That's all there needs to be. It slopes down towards the ocean. It's San Francisco, obviously.
Okay, but I guess if you guys haven't said anything, if you guys haven't already said this, you don't need to respond. Just let me know. But I want to go over my favorite touches of this movie, like that make it just special to me. I said one, where they just kind of start pummeling each other again. But I really like Michelle Williams as Anne. I really like Dr. Dan, who I maintain should get his own movie. And he should be anti-Venom. I'm just saying, he's a doctor, anti-Venom. It makes complete sense. Sony, hire me.
I really liked with Doctor Dan is that they didn't do this normal trope in that they always do in these kind of movies, where
Yes.
the guy who moves in on the hero's ex is always an asshole.
Oh yeah, I hate that.
He's always a dickwad, and he's always like some kind of pencil pusher or whatever. But in this movie, Doctor Dan is just a nice guy, and he tries to help Eddie all the time, and it's like, oh, that's nice.
He's just
It's
a
a
good
really nice
guy. Yeah.
trope. Yes.
Yeah. You see. It's so I love rom coms. I watch so many rom coms, and like the amount of times where like there's no fault love triangles, which means like oh it's a love triangle, but only because everyone loves each other, and that's what's causing the conflict, and not like oh these two love each other and they're just one prick, which isn't a love triangle. All right, it's just two people who love each other and an asshole. I hate it. It's like 1%, and so seeing it in Venom, I thought was really really fun. Because there's like it adds a little bit more nuance to the emotions that really isn't something I don't think was intentional, but it just happens because of necessity. It adds just a little bit more spice to the characters, to the dynamics, and it's nice. It's good. I love
It,
Doctor
it
Dan.
it's strange because it makes the movie feel a little bit less than like a caricature movie.
Mhm.
Like it feels a bit less like your standard action movie where every character is just a caricature. The X has to be Jingle All the Way. Where Arnold calls back, and this guy picks up the phone and he's like, "Oh no, are you putting the moves on my wife and shit like that?"
Or
That
any like Emerald and Emmerich movie, where like oh
yes, exactly.
they're divorced, but don't worry, we're gonna kill off the ex-wife's new husband. So
Yeah,
don't
but
worry.
he's an asshole anyways. Nobody likes him.
But no, I love that, and again, I love the way it streamlined stuff. Like they didn't need to introduce She Venom, but the way they did made sense. Gave good payoff to some character arcs. Like you have like this part where like the whole point of the movie or chunk of the movie is where like Eddie and Anne no longer really connect to each other anymore. Like the trust had been breached, and but through Venom they're able to come to another kind of understanding. Like they're able to see eye to eye again. They're not together again, but like they now have this bond of like connection rebuilt. Like, oh, that's fun. But we also get She Venom, so it's like it's a twofer. It's a twofer. It works on a character level, and it's also really fun to see Eddie kiss Venom.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think we said this the last time I was on the pod as well. That's actually a scene that was salvaged from the Sam Raimi concept way back in the 2000s. They were gonna have in that Venom movie they were gonna have Venom transfer from Anne to Eddie with a kiss. So that scene has been 20 years coming.
it's a good scene. That's a banger of a scene. They must have had that in their like wallet. Like every draft, they're like the kiss must be kept in, underlined 3 times. Amy Pascal was like, "There's no way this is going without a kiss." So God bless Amy Pascal. She's doing good work here. But no, like I think that's about it. Like generally, the movie just I like the movie's humor. I like the momentum. I love the frantic nature of it. Like it feels nervous. A lot of nervous energy in this movie that both works for the character and works for the tone of the film. But Comrade, where there's any like little touches you didn't mention that you liked?
No, it's I like the fact I said this just before we started is that this movie really goes in hard on the Venom lore. Like pretty much everything in this movie, every character name and every little event is based on some kind of thing from a Venom comic, even if it is obscure. And I like that. It's like concentrating like all of these 90s and sort of early 2000s Venom comics into a movie, and I appreciate that because they didn't have to. Like they didn't have to name the villain Carlton Drake. It's a totally pointless detail, but it's nice. I like that.
Yeah, they didn't have to have like what's her face, the yellow symbiote. But they did, and she appears for like 10 seconds before she dies. But
Scream, I think.
I was gonna say Shriek, but like that's not Shriek.
No, that's not true. Yeah,
I think it's Scream. I think it's Scream.
I can never tell the Life Foundation symbiotes apart. You know, the 5 colored ones
But the yellow
that's
one is pretty obvious. And,
yes, because she had her own series recently at
yeah.
Marvel.
And so like that's again little touches, and that's what I like about like that's what I mean like streamlined. Like we're taking all this and we're distilling it, and that's why I love the Deadpool movies as well. Like Deadpool 2, I think is like a masterclass of that as well. Like just taking all these elements and just making a solid narrative out of it. But what about you, AJ? Was there any little touches that you want like particularly say about this movie?
For me, it was I guess the slight inclusion of horror aspects, at least as much horror as you can get into PG-13 films, but like the whole body snatching with the symbiote hopping from person to person to get to the States, then the times we would see where they would take over people's bodies, but they would end up dying like really quickly, and their bodies basically just short circuit on them, like that type of stuff. You know, it was cool to see. Not something I necessarily would have thought they would have gone for in a superhero movie when they're trying to get probably a kid audience into it as well. So
Oh yeah, Riot kills a
was a
kid
nice
in
touch.
this. Riot kills a
Yeah,
kid in this.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's fun. Oh yeah, I love that too, and it reminds me a lot of like one of the big controversies this movie had, where like there's this movie that was came out in 2018, and you might remember it. It was called Upgrade, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I hate the movie so much. Not only because like it's just an okay movie, but it's very generic. It's like a very generic film. You can see the twist coming a mile away.
Mhm.
But like everyone was like, "That's the real Venom movie. That's the movie Venom should have been." Oh, show me the Venom comic where Venom takes over Eddie Brock's mind, and like is a complete abusive piece of shit to Eddie Brock, and like ruins his life,
Mhm.
and also does like kung fu like oh my god, like I always had to say like Upgrade was not a good Venom movie, but it was the movie that the Venom trailers promised. You know, like the Venom trailers are all like, "Oh, there's something inside me. It's
Yeah,
gonna make
I
me
can
do
see that.
horrible things."
Yeah.
And like that's what Upgrade is, and that's not what Venom the movie is. Maybe there's something that seems about that, but no, Venom is a buddy comedy at its heart, and it's a good one. I have like, and it what irked me about this is that it took until like 2020 or 2019, like late 2019, to get any merch from this movie. Because like I think Marvel did not want to have anything to do with this movie, so there was like no
Mhm.
merchandise. And like in like late 2019, we finally got like the first action figure for it, and that's it.
Yeah. But they did that special edition Marvel Legends figure, which I will grant it's one of the best Marvel Legends figures they've done in the last few years. It's really, really good. So
And they reused that mold for like the regular new Venom as well.
yeah.
And that's like cool. That's great. And I think the only other thing that existed was like this really like cheapo, like 3.5-inch tall, like Walmart tie-in toy, like a retro
Yeah.
toy. And like I got it because like I need something from this film, you know. I have it, and it sucks that we're seeing the same thing happen with Carnage. Like there's no Carnage merchandise. Like why is there not a Carnage figure? Whatever. Anyway, I guess if you want to talk, we can talk about before we go into Carnage. Let's talk about boycott Sony. All right. It's just a brief history of the most pathetic thing I've ever fucking witnessed. And I'm gonna say this and Snyder heads neck and neck. All right.
God.
Okay, so Venom it released to widespread audience acclaim. Not didn't do so well with critics. But widespread audience acclaim. 800 million. Like it shot out like a rocket. Infamously, iconically, legendarily, Ruben Fleischer went on like an interview and said like, "Yeah, there's probably not going to be a director's cut because this movie made $100 million. So people like this version. I have no need to do a director's cut." And this was like because of the whole Snyder Cut thing going on at the time. Like,
Right.
that was a
Yeah.
bold statement, and I respect it, even though I really want a director's cut of this. But then Sony got a little big in their britches, and they're like, "We have this gigantic film by our standards. And we're gonna use this to leverage some more out of Marvel, out of the MCU.
We're going to take the
Yeah.
Spider-Man rights back.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it was always a ploy. It was always just like just to show Marvel who's boss. So it was never any danger. Like everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Sony is doing this. They're disrespecting like Marvel's rights as the true creators of Spider-Man." And like boycott Sony, hashtag free Spider-Man. Oh my god, so lame, so pathetic. And it was a big thing. It was a big thing. And then like people would blame again. A lot of blame came onto this movie. A lot of blame came onto the Sony Marvel universe because like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this for their weak ass universe and movie that isn't even good. And like, did you guys not see the reaction to Far From Home? 2 weeks ago, you were saying Far From Home was shit, and now you're saying that like you want to see the third one of this. Like, pick a lane. You can't say that the Marvel is fucking up and also that Sony's fucking up Marvel making another one of these. All right, is that the whatever? Like hashtag finish trilogy, all that kind of
Yeah,
shit.
wasn't Tom Holland even part of that? Like campaigning for Spidey to stay in the MCU. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
eh.
but like I kind of like understand because Tom Holland's like actually financially invested, and these guys and the people are camp who are like really going hard on these hashtags are just like, what do you get out of this?
Yeah.
Outside of just like showing that you were like really knee deep in fandom brain,
Mhm.
But of course, like they made a new deal. Sony gets like a lot more leeway in how they get to handle like their Marvel universe and like how they get to handle cross-ins, and like they're making the most out of it, to be
Yes,
sure.
they are.
Yeah.
And to be honest, watching all three of these back to back this weekend, it reminded me the start of this Sony Marvel universe. They're on the same trajectory as the MCU
Yeah,
in the beginning.
I said that too. I said that too.
Yeah, you have a really good first movie,
Yeah,
very little hints of anything else to come. Second movie, still pretty good, but all right, we start throwing in more hints, more Easter eggs, more tie-ins on it. And third movie, I'm sure we'll get into it later. It just goes balls to the wall with, oh hey, here. We got
here it
stuff
is.
coming here,
Here's our
here.
Yep.
plan. Here's our
Oh
plan.
my goodness! So
Yeah, like
I mean,
the quality
but
as well is
yeah,
like
Yeah.
Iron Man to Incredible Hulk to Iron Man 2,
yep,
It's
exactly.
and so that means that like Madam Web's gonna be pretty good.
Hmm.
Because that's gonna be their Captain America, right?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you're not gonna shit talk the first Avenger, but then I remember you really liked that movie, so
Yeah, no, I love it. And so like
yeah.
Madam Web is gonna be like, okay, here's the Rosetta Stone, just like Cap 1 was. Like, hell yeah. Give me that. Yeah, Dakota Johnson, sign me up. She's pretty cute. But speaking,
What is that movie going to be about though? Like with Venom, I can understand what it's gonna be about. Morbius, yes. Craven, yes. But like Madam Web, what's going to happen in that movie?
it's gonna be like Doctor Strange, where like, oh, here's
Oh
multiverse
yeah.
shenanigans.
Oh yeah. Oh, here's the Spider Verse thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah,
and she
you're
gonna
right.
she's gonna learn about the big threat. All right, but that means Craven the Hunter is gonna be their Thor, and it's gonna be crap.
Oh no.
Oh no! But anyway, talking about all this, let's move on to the next one we have, um, Venom 2, aka Let There Be Carnage, a movie that everyone said should not be made because there's not going to be like blood, guts. There's not going to be people. You can't not gonna be able to see people die, bloody. Should be rated R. Should be rated X. Like shut the fuck up, man. Are the comics rated X? Are you insane? But what did you guys think of this? Like, what were you when they said like Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, and you heard all this stuff about like, oh, new director Andy Serkis, first blockbuster film, or Tom Hardy's co-writing the script. What were you guys' thoughts, Comrade?
Honestly, I thought, oh, the first one really surprised me that it was really good. So maybe the second one will have enough momentum to carry that through. But I did have some reservations because I'm not super invested in Carnage as a character, like even as a faceless villain character. So I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be any good or not. So I felt sort of neutral on it. Yeah, I have nothing else to say.
Are you AJ?
All right, that's good. I when I first heard Circus was going to be directing, and I'm a fan of Andy Circus, but I was kind of like, why? I understand the critical reception of the first one was not great, but you made like what 850 million dollars, somewhere around there. Like you don't need to panic, guys. It's and not that they panicked and changed the whole plans for their universe. I'm not saying that, but you guys have a formula. It's working for you. The beginnings of the formula, I should say. Why not stick with that and develop that a little more? Them adding Carnage, it's fine. I've never been the biggest Carnage fan myself, so it was, hey, I'll take it. Let me see what they do with it. Maybe they'll do something interesting. I don't know if they succeeded in that aspect, but so I just would have preferred that first director having a chance to come back and continue the direction that he was taking the franchise in.
Oh, I agree. And but now, my main thoughts were of that were like I was also worried when we got a new director, but that was mainly because at the time, Ruben Fleischer was really starting to get Zombieland 2 going, and that's been a passion project of his for like years. He always wanted to do Zombieland 2, and like he finally has a shot. So he asked Sony like, "Can we delay filming by like a year so that I could do Zombieland 2?" And they're like, "No, we made $800 million. We're getting this out the door as quickly as we can."
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen Ruben Fleischer's take on this. But I think Circus did a really good job keeping everything like it's the same tonally and aesthetically. Like that was my main concern. I think Circus only directed like one other thing before this, like an animated Tarzan movie or Mowgli movie. Yeah, he did one of the Jungle
Yeah.
Books.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm.
I'm worried. I'm worried that they were gonna get like Circus to come in and be like workmanlike. We're gonna get like a very like flaccid, very aesthetically bland film, like a very kind of studio film, a very kind of MCU film, And then that first trailer came out, and like 90% of my worries dissipated because like this looks like the first movie. It has like the same kind of sense of humor as the first movie, and tonally it looks like very in keeping, in line with what Fleischer set up. And like, okay, cool. And then the movie came out, and like, and this, I'll leave my thoughts for last because I rewatched it again recently. I only seen it twice. But what were your thoughts when you first saw this? Let's start with Bullski.
Yeah, when I first saw this one, I thought, oh, it's the first movie again, but it's not as good. Pretty much, it felt like they were trying to hit all of the same things as the first movie, but it also felt like it was a little bit. It wasn't really that stringent as the first movie. The plot was kind of nebulous up in the air, and the characters were just sort of bouncing between scenes. So I felt like, oh, it's. I didn't hate it, but I felt it was definitely a step down from the first movie. Like it felt like, oh, this is the sequel that's trying to capitalize on the franchise. Pretty much, they just rushed this out the door. That was my reaction, more or less. That was the first viewing reaction, anyway. So yeah.
Just to keep us going, what was your second viewing reaction? Let's do both. If you guys had like changed between like viewings, let's just continue on. I want to hear like the difference as well.
I thought it was better the second viewing. I thought that I was more looking at the actors and the performances in that one, and then I felt, oh, it's fine, like Woody Harrelson's having a good time, and Hardy and the others are also having a good time, and I was like, yeah, this isn't that bad really, but I still felt like it really was missing a bit of the movie. Like definitely scenes were missing in it.
We'll get into that at the end. No worries.
Yeah. So yeah, but it improved a little bit.
What about you, AJ?
I liked Let There Be Carnage. I'm not as big a fan of it as I was the first Venom. Like you guys said, it feels like parts are missing, definitely. But I don't know. Just little choices here and there I'm maybe not the hugest fan of. For one, I would prefer him and Anne to be back together. I know Dan's a good guy, but
How dare you? Dan deserves to be happy.
no, I say Dan he is a good guy. Like, so I can't feel totally fault them for that, but I mean, just it's just little things that bother me. But there's also a lot of good in the movie. The Venom and Eddie banter has progressed and evolved in this film. Eddie's trying to restrain him in more, even after the first film. They kind of came to an agreement about who he would let him eat and who he wouldn't. Then we get to this film, and he's not really letting him eat people. And Venom's trying to. I guess Venom's trying to bring out more. I guess we should say brutal urges in Eddie at times when they go up against folks. So stuff like that, I like. The Carnage, like I said, it was okay. He was okay. I just haven't really had an attachment to that character ever. So now Woody Harrelson is great. So that's a plus. But yeah, this movie it just didn't hit for me like the first one did, and that's been the same for both viewings. I've seen it twice now, so
No
it's
problem.
just it's still good, but not like the first.
I feel
Yeah.
like I'm like kind of a mix between your both of your reactions. Like I said, the first time I saw this, I did not like it. I almost came close to hating it, mainly
Hmm.
based on my reaction and my memories and my fondness for the first movie. Like I hate it when like a movie I really enjoy doesn't get the sequel it deserves, because like you're just wasting the potential. Even the sequel has stuff in it that's there to be enjoyed and is really entertaining. I knock so much points against it if it's not putting in the work to be a proper sequel. And a lot of times that's what Let There Be Carnage kind of feels like. It feels like a step back. It feels like they're retreading a lot of stuff, or the stuff that they set up at the end of the first movie, like you were saying, or like, oh, they come to an agreement in this one. Oh no, that agreement, like that, he went back on it, and now we have to redo that agreement. Like we have to be, we're going back a couple of steps just to go those same steps forward again. Like we already went through that journey. Do we need to go through that journey again? And so that's the kind of stuff that really irked me. That really I didn't feel comfortable with, and I didn't enjoy. Um, but again, I didn't totally hate it. Like I said, I love that Circus was able to capture a lot of what made the first movie feel so different and feel so unique to itself. And I think on that end, I still really enjoyed it. The parts that felt too similar to the first movies was definitely like the She Venom thing. Like I don't know why that scene exists. Um, it feels like a very convoluted setup where like, oh, Eddie gets arrested, and then after Dan and Anne track down Venom, and then she becomes She Venom again. Like it just seems like, oh, people really like She Venom in the first one. We have to find a way to get She Venom in this one. And like I hate
It felt to me like they were teasing, like, hey, she's gonna get a symbiote of her own eventually, guys. Like that's at least what I think they're trying to
maybe
signal, but I could be completely wrong. So who
maybe
knows? We'll see.
for me
But
it felt just like very fan baity, and like
Mm,
I was a fan of that scene, but I didn't want to see it like repeated for no reason.
right.
but that's exactly what you said right now. That's how I felt. It's like, oh, we're doing the whole Venom and Eddie aren't getting along thing again, like, and then we're doing She Venom again, like, oh, we're doing all of the beats from the first movie. Then I guess.
Yeah, the only big difference for me was that Carnage really is like a really big swing after Carlton Drake. Like I enjoyed Carnage, I really did. Carnage, like again, not my radar. He's like, oh, he's the red Venom, um, in my mind. But like, I think Woody Harrelson as Carnage is really entertaining in his performance. Not
Hmm.
necessarily the writing, but in the performance, Woody Harrelson as Cletus and Woody Harrelson voicing Venom, he's really good. He's really good. Like I'm entertained when he's on screen. He's such a personality, such a cult of personality to him. And I did love Shriek, even though there's not much to Shriek. I loved that she wasn't like the standard love interest. Like a lot of ways. Like it's so refreshing. Like they're in love, but also psychos. And even though Carnage tries to kill Shriek so many times, she's still completely devoted to
Yeah.
Cletus and Carnage. Like he almost snaps her neck, and she's like, "I gotta offend this guy. Like, what are you doing?"
Well, I mean that's straight out of the comics as well. Like that happens so much in the Maximum Carnage and stuff that they're riffing on. I mean, they're both really, really fucked up in the head. So
It was nice. I when there's this person announced like, oh, we're gonna give like Carnage a love story. It's gonna be about his emotions. All people were like, oh, they're weakening Carnage, or like they're pussyfooting around Carnage. They're not going like full hog. And like again, what comics are you reading where Carnage is like eating people's guts like uncensored on the page? And also like, yeah, things have to be changed for a movie. Like it's good to give like Carnage like a and Cletus like a good narrative anchor, at least a little bit, because a lot of the movie doesn't give him anything to do,
yeah,
unfortunately.
Mhm.
But like I was really entertained whenever he and Shriek had a little bit of repartee. Like when he rescues her and he's like, oh, cooing at her, and she's like really into like Guru and hentai apparently. He's like, oh man, these bloody mucusy tentacles are really hot. Um, and in the meanwhile, in the background, he's like snapping the mad scientist doctor's neck. Like, oh, this is a
Yeah.
fun little set piece. I love it. But
Yeah.
story wise, it was really disappointing. Second time I watched it, I enjoyed it a little bit more, mainly because in the meanwhile, they had released a couple of deleted scenes that I think helped the movie a lot if you've seen them. Have you guys seen the deleted scenes?
no,
No, I haven't.
The big one, now it's well common knowledge. Like most of the first half of the movie was chopped down to get this to 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's well like, and that's a shame because that means a lot of setup and a lot of character building for like Eddie and Cletus was just gone. It's gone. But another thing is that it also means that Carnage's motivation is like gone. Like he no longer has any motivation. If you see the film, Carnage has no plan. There's no plot. It's just like,
Right.
oh, let's get Cletus and Shriek together, and also some revenge, and that's the extent of the drama and the stakes. But if you see the lead scene, it's like is one where like Carnage explains his motivation, and his motivation is to create a super race of um, of symbiotes that where he's at the top. He's like the king, right? And that's why he wants to kill Venom because he can't be at the top if his father or like sire still exists. You know? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a lot, but it gives him something. You know? Uh,
yeah,
and like in the movie just needed a little bit more of that, and you see in the movie it happens so quickly, like what you call it, Venom, Cletus writes a letter to Eddie, and Eddie reads it, and then he goes to meet Cletus, and he finds all these bodies, and then Cletus is immediately like uh, turned into Carnage, and like you could tell that there was more connective tissue. You could tell that there was probably a little bit more like development. Like when you hear like approach this story, Avi Arad and like Amy Pascal, they're really going hard on like, oh, what's the driving force behind their animosity, behind their conflict, is that Cletus and Eddie had this twisted friendship, but like we never see that. And I feel like there was probably a lot more scenes that were like they were maybe like a Hannibal Lecter thing going on, you know?
yeah.
And I would totally want to see those. I really do think that movie needs them. But you know, damn man. Other than that, I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed. I was able to appreciate the stuff that makes the movie more unique than the first one, more different than the first one the second time around. Like in this one, it's very much a romance. Like apparently the original working title for this movie was Venom: Love Will Tear Us Apart, which is a better title.
Wow.
It's a better title, Love Will Tear Us Apart. Because it's what it is. Like it's about love. It's about like it's about Cletus and Shriek. It's about Cletus and Carnage. It's about Eddie and Venom. It's about even Dr. Yang gets in the in the ring because he has his own feelings. There's like these little beats where like he's worried that like Eddie is definitely going to steal Anne away from him, and yet together like there's that their whole kind of like thruple scene, I'm gonna call it, where like Venom body surfs through all of them, and like
Yeah.
it's again, it's like that scene. It's like that scene in the first one where like in a good way, it's like thematically resonant, not just like repeating it. We're like, okay, now Venom bonds these three people together, like their relationship, and now like they have a bond, and it's good, and it's all about like the things love makes us do, you know, and I love that theme. I love the heartbreak of it all. And it's nice. I wish there was more thematic substance to it, and I want to see a director's cut because Tom Hardy he co-wrote the story, and I'm pretty sure he wanted more. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, what were some of the things you guys really liked about this movie? Little touches again. Comrade?
Yeah, no, same thing as before. I think all of the actors did a really good job. It felt like everybody was really acting into it. I already mentioned that I think that Woody Harrelson is doing everything he can with Cletus, even though, you know, as you said, the writing isn't always there for it. But, you know, he's trying and he's having fun. I like that they brought Shriek in because, you know, that's the classic Maximum Carnage thing. You know, Carnage and Shriek go on a murder spree together. Which I think was actually inspired by Natural Born Killers, which starred Woody Harrelson. So I think that's kind of one of those things where everything just goes in a circle eventually. But yeah, no, it's yeah, it's I like the same thing that you like. Basically, it's the little touches felt good, the character moments felt good. And I wish there was more of it. Really, I wish there were more scenes like that.
What about you, AJ? What were the little
For
things you liked about
me,
it?
yeah, for me, it's a lot like the first one. The relationship between Eddie and Venom. You see a little strife, a little more strife in this film. You know, they basically break up to make up. Their just back and forth dynamic is really good. That's probably one of the strongest aspects of these first two films. That and I'm trying to. I will say this. The third act fight scene in this film is. I feel it's an improvement over the first film. It's got some of the same issues, but you can at least see what's happening in this film. So kudos to them on that.
I will agree. Like my main problem with in the first movie was that their color schemes were too similar,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
Carnage, she's design is really good in this one. Like you think that it could have been just a lazy repaint, and they could have just done that, but they add so much flourishes to Carnage that I really like the way he looks. Like I think
Same.
this is the kind of
Yeah.
I love the way he transforms too, where he just kind of rips he rips Cletus's skin off to
Hmm.
burst out. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome stuff. And he's all gooey and mucusy and like, it's fantastic, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I most again I liked at the end of this too. Like he comes through in the end. I love it when like the tertiary non-fight character comes in for a save. It's my favorite thing. Like he just starts he just starts throwing like gasoline and a flamethrower at Carnage. It's so good. I love it. I know there was a big fan theory, and like a lot of fake leaks saying like, oh, Carnage is going to go after Eddie and his family, and like he was going to kill Dr. Dan, like because he's a serial killer. He's going to go on a serial killer spree, which he kind of does, but not really. I thought that was so clearly going to happen, and I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad Dr. Dan's still alive.
I thought so too. I was sure that Dr. Dan was gonna die. I almost thought he was gonna die in that final scene in the cathedral.
Yeah,
When
like
he comes in for the save, I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna like die very tragically to save," you know. And then so just so Eddie and Anne can get back together. And I'm glad he didn't. You know.
Dr. Dan again. Make him anti-venom. Let's do it. But stuff like that. I also liked Pat Mulligan. Like he's so much different from the comics, but
Yeah.
I think that they set up a lot where Toxin is a very viable antagonist for the next film.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like they set up so much for a third movie. Like they basically every scene with Venom is like, this is what I want to do for the third movie. Like the very first scene, Venom is like, I want to be a lethal protector, and like that's what the third movie's gonna be called. Let's be honest, it's gonna be called Venom Lethal Protector. That's the title. That's the title. All right, and it's gonna be about like how it's probably gonna be like you have like this old school by the book, like Pat Mulligan and Toxin, and maybe they go a little bit off the rails. Maybe Pat can't control a symbiote, and then you have Venom, and he's like an old school anti-hero kind of dude, and like they're like that's a good thematic thing to kind of set up. I hope they take advantage of that. Like even if like the movie is as short and as stripty, like a good theme can carry you a lot of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like that almost happens here with the romance stuff. Like there's enough there. Like there's enough there. Like Carnage is abusive to like Cletus and Shriek, and there's still all these mixed feelings. It's good. I like the theme. I'll leave it at that. But let's talk about the post-credit scene that shocked the nation, and that also brought back some hashtag boycott Sony bullshit. Like, I don't want to see this happen. Oh, Sony's ruining the perfect Marvel vision by intruding on the MCU. Whatever, all that bullshit. Where Venom crosses over into the MCU right at the end, right at the end of Far From Home. And what were your guys' thoughts on that, Comrade?
My
Are we?
sorry,
No,
sorry.
AJ can start this time. It's fine.
Sure. My thought was, okay, so this is Amy Pascal and Sony. This is them extracting a little more concessions from Feige in order to keep doing Spider-Man movies. Because I think he was fully okay with keeping these universes separate and just having slight hints and winks and nods at, oh yeah, they are vaguely similar. And then this post credit scene goes, nope, we're doing the thing. We're gonna have Venom and Eddie. We're gonna have them fully involved in the MCU going forward, which we haven't seen yet, but I think we all know it's coming. That since they've had great success with this multiverse stuff, depending on who you ask. So yeah, that's where we are. It was just pretty much tease for them saying it was basically Sony's victory lap, saying, "Hey, we're finally in the MCU."
Yeah. This is what we got for making $800 million.
Yeah.
Leverage. What about you, Comrade? What were your thoughts?
Okay, so I haven't seen No Way Home like at all.
Okay.
Because I mean I've totally dropped out of MCU movies, but like, does Venom actually show up in that movie?
Okay, no. Here's the funny thing. All right, here's the funny thing. Okay, so it seems like the compromise was that basically another Venom Sons will be the MCU Venom. So what happens is that in the post-credits scene to No Way Home, Venom just gets sent back, but he leaves a little baby behind.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine. I don't give a shit. But what were your thoughts when that scene happened? Like,
I wasn't excited about that at all. To be honest, I was perfectly fine with these movies being separate from the MCU because I basically didn't want them to be involved and get involved in that giant, story arc constantly, and you have to watch all the movies to keep up. So I didn't really care for it at all, honestly. I was surprised they did it, but I understood that it was just Sony flexing, as you said. Like, it was totally them just showing off what they can do and what they can negotiate for. But yeah, I wasn't excited at all about it, honestly.
same. Like when I first saw that scene, I'm like, God no, no, because like I was so excited. Like again, this was even before I watched Venom 2, and I got a little more positive about it. Like even before that, I was really excited for Venom 3. Like I'm really excited to see like that come to a close. That character arc go full circle. Like he becomes a hero fighting against probably Toxin, who's gone off the rails. Like I want to see that. I really want to have that be the capstone. I think that would really work well. So to have like this teaser, like, oh, Venom's the MCU, I'm like, I do not want Venom 3 to be Venom against Tom Holland. Please, God, don't let this happen. So when I saw No Way Home, and that post-credit scene happened, like, thank God, we can all move on. The Sony universe is safe. Meanwhile, hundreds and countless of other reactions were like, thank God the MCU is safe. Like, no, it's it was the Sony universe that got out scot-free from that one, unscathed.
And it didn't make any sense to me either, because I was like, oh yeah, they spent so much time in the first movie making sure that they had a Venom origin that had nothing to do with Spider-Man, and then they're just gonna bring in Spider-Man anyway. I was like, what was even the point? Like,
Yeah,
it felt really pointless and just as a publicity thing, a stunt.
yeah. But like, when have these movies been? When have any comic book movie universe ever been ahead of stunts? So like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and then you hear like when the No Way Home stinger happened, people were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Sony like lied to us." Like, Marvel has lied to you so many fucking times, bro. Have you rewatched at the end of Iron Man again? That stinger was like, Nick Fury was like, I want to talk to you about being an Avenger. And then the next two movies are like, Tony Stark, you will never be an Avenger. Like, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because there are no Avengers, as it turns out. Like, there is no Avenger project that he talks about in that movie.
Yeah. It doesn't
Like
exist.
there is nothing. They have nothing. They have Hawkeye, like the guy with a bow.
Hawkeye and Black Widow.
And Black Widow, that's it. That's the Avenger initiative right there.
But like that's the thing. That's such an Ultimates universe thing. But the thing of the matter is that Black Widow and Hawkeye and Ultimates were cool as hell, and Jerry Renner isn't cool. He's so boring. He's a boring, fleshy potato man. Anyway,
That is the best description of Jeremy Renner I have ever heard.
they got him out of that Mission Impossible movie as quick as they could. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say. Anyway, now we got all that out of the way. Let's talk about the next Marvel legend. Okay, the newest Marvel legend, as they say. The one, the only, the living vampire, Morbius. Okay, so raise of hands. Who's seen this? Me.
Not me.
Yeah, I watched it right before we came on.
All
Okay,
right,
so you guys watched it. That's good. That's 2 out of 3.
all right. Would you guys be adverse to me giving a little rundown on what happened to this movie?
No,
No,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because there's lots of false truths going out there, lots of lies. All right. Let's start with okay. Let's go from the top, because before the movie even got released, it's infamous now. The director gave a tell-all Q&A sponsored by Sony, where he answered every question, spoilery as hell, no matter what. All right.
That tells me they knew the reviews were going to be shit, so they had to do something to try to pique people's interest, because I have never seen that before.
That's
At least for a movie like on this scale, I was like, wow.
That's true. But also, on one level, I respect it. I respect the hell out of it. You know why?
Okay,
Because-
explain. Yeah.
Because when the MCU lies to you, they never fucking say sorry at all.
That's very true. That's
Like,
very true.
like, hey, remember that time they were like, the Hulk is totally in Infinity War, and he wasn't. And he wasn't in Infinity War. Oh well. Remember that time we had to suffer through seeing really badly CGI'd and green screen Mark Ruffalo's head float above a Hulkbuster, and
Mhm.
Marvel didn't say shit as like recompense for that. So you know what? I'm actually really, really appreciative that Sony went out of the way to go like, yeah, those scenes originally from the middle of the movie got pushed to the end. You know what? Good. Okay, whatever. I feel like those scenes probably would have been really awkward in the middle of the movie where they're clearly meant to be. 'Cause
Right.
if you compare to like where they are in the trailer, the first vulture scene was clearly meant to happen like at the midway point of this film. where Morbius gets arrested.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
But like, good, because that would have been awkward. That would have been awkward because it would ruin the flow of the film. But this movie has lots of issues. Let's go again. But after that, let's just go point by point. All right, it begins in the most insane way possible, where each scene is one sentence of exposition. All right, like that's it. Like every scene is like, well, first scene, Doctor, what are you doing in Costa Rica? I'm here to collect vampire bats. Okay, scene done. Doctor, you're winning an award. Yes, I have. Scene ends. Doctor, you're treating this poor little girl for this disease that you also have. Yes, I am. Scene ends. That's how this movie goes. The first half is littered with nothing but scenes like this, and it is insanity. It is like, and the thing is, if you compare it to the trailer, you can tell how much was cut out, because that scene where like he gets an award, Nobel Peace Prize for like excellence in medicine or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you see in the trailer, that goes on for a little bit. Like he's walking towards the stage, and you see him at the podium in one shot in the trailer, in one of the trailers. So it's clearly going to be like a bigger character-heavy scene, probably something where like he talks about his disease, shows up his motivation, develops his emotional core a little bit. But like that's gone. That's out of here. So we get only the littlest amounts available just to set up that this is something that happened to his character, and shows that he's noble, even if it lasts for like 10 seconds. And the only time this movie actually starts to slow down, let me go. After that, I'm going to go through the whole run through because I promised you that. After that, we get this extended flashback to his childhood that is a little bit better, because the childhood flashback gets time to breathe. You show him growing up with his best friend, played by Matt Smith. They're both kids with the same brittle bone, blood's gonna kill me disease.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah, no, you get, it's a scene totally about itself. Like it's exposition, but like they knew that this had the rest of the movie doesn't work if this scene isn't at least kept in its entirety, and you can feel it's kept in its entirety because after like 4 scenes of like nothing but like one sentence scenes, like this is like, oh, okay, we're slowing down. This is good. It's good character work. The kid actors are really good in it too. And then we go back to like another like one episode, one sentence scene after that. We're like, what are you doing? You're experimenting illegal drugs on these vampire bats? Yes, I am. Cutscene. And they, hey, we're grown up now. I'm grown up Morbius. You're a grown up young childhood friend. You're rich. I am. Cutscene. Like, oh, we're on the boat now in international waters with mercenaries? Yes. That happened. We're just on a boat with mercenaries now to do mad science. Oh, you're a vampire now? Like that's if you asked me how long all this took, I would say 8 minutes, because that's what it feels like. But it was probably more like 20.
How long is this movie?
1 hour and 30 minutes.
I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Yeah.
And
So,
the
like,
thing is,
yeah, go on.
it drags at points. Like he's describing this as quick, but like I think it was closer to like 30 minutes. All this went on. I'm like, how?
Oh.
Yeah, the
Wow.
scene, the actual scenes are like short in actual substance, but like they take up a while, and that's what irks me, is that these scenes in their uncut forms could have been like truncated easily, but they just cut out the wrong stuff. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely feel that in a couple of places.
Like it's the same thing. Like with Venom, I made this comparison with Venom. Venom, they cut out all the unnecessary like character stuff, maybe some necessary character stuff, but they cut out like all that stuff to focus on momentum and focus on the humor, and that worked because you know what? That's the appeal. Carnage, they cut out like all the interesting character and plot beats, and the movie suffers for it. And this kind of feels like both. And we'll get to that in the second half, because that second half, this is where the movie actually picks up a lot. Because now that he's like the living vampire, it's nothing but like really cool set pieces, and really entertaining set pieces, like him training, or like him deciding to like starve himself of blood and he goes feral, or like just a chase scene and he's learning his vampire powers, and they're hindering him because he doesn't know how to is that classic thing where like I have super strength, but I don't know how to open doors, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That cliche. So it's fun stuff. And then like Tyrese Gibson is fun in it. His partner is fun in it. Like there's like Matt Smith is like it becomes amazing in this movie. Like he becomes like Evil Ed from Fright Night, and this movie works at two different speeds, and it's weird. And it's one speed is definitely better than the other, but it's not ideal. Neither is ideal, um, for what it wants to do. But the second half is definitely a lot stronger because we get these scenes. Morbius learns a lot more about what he is, and it's all very generic stuff, very typical set pieces. Like I said, he's training, he's learning his powers, he tries to starve himself, becomes feral. Matt Smith is like, I'm about to die, make me a vampire, which you've seen in like 90% of all vampire movies, and also Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's the same. It's either a vampire movie reference or Amazing Spider-Man 2 reference. I don't know which one Sony probably did, but it's the exact same thing. We're like, give me your vampire blood, Morbius, and he says no. He'll probably kill you or do something horrible to you, and then he just takes it anyway and becomes the world's most fun vampire. He's just killing mercilessly, hitting on women, all the classic like I'm a vampire and I'm having fun tropes. He does a little dance. He throws away. Funniest thing. Okay, so he frames Morbius for murder, as revenge, and he goes to visit him in his crutches, pretending to still be like having this bone blood disease, and then like Morbius, I'm gonna help you get out with all my money, resources. We're gonna get you out of this prison. Don't worry. And then he just kind of leaves his crutches behind, and he starts like he does that Usual Suspects thing. Have you seen the Usual Suspects?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know
That's
what you mean.
it's a direct reference too because it has the same exact framing and shot composition. Where like the Matt Smith's character starts like walking all like cross-footed, and then like he just kind of like becomes all like cool and suave, calm, collected, walking. Like, oh, that's fun. That's a weird reference, but whatever. Morbius is having fun with it. This movie is having fun with it, and Matt Smith is having a lot of fun. Um, and then it's again like I think that just having that contrast, that new energy with Matt Smith, because he's like really, really over the top, gives this movie a lot more life because you have Morbius and he's like the tortured, like classic Byronic vampire, like I can never be in love because who would carry my burden, that kind of shit. Um, and then you have like Lost Boys style, like fuck yeah, party forever kind of vampire going at it, and
It's
it's
Angel and Spike all over again from
yes,
Buffy, basically.
it's Angel and Spike. And that carries the rest of the movie. Like they fight like three times, and it's all fun, and then it ends in this really kind of classic like way. And it's my favorite cliche in any vampire movie or any monster movie, any classic monster movie, where like you kill the monster and they just transform because they're free. They're free of the curse, so they go back to being pure and innocent and human, and that kind of shit. And I love it. Like this is good. This is good stuff. And then let's talk about the end credits after that. But it ends with like Morbius flying off in a swarm of vampires because he's the vampire king now. He's the king of the bats, and like
Yeah.
okay, it's good. It's good stuff. And then like the last shot I think is like Morbius is like, oh, so good. This is so good. Okay, so Morbius like he's starving himself of blood, right? He's eating plasma, so they adapted that. They kept that in from the cartoon. He eats plasma in this, his own brand of plasma. It's like I can't believe they kept that in, but whatever, fun. But then he's like, his girlfriend is mortally wounded, and he's like, I'm not strong enough to beat Matt Smith because he's eaten like 8 people, and his dying girlfriend's like, you gotta do it. And so as she's dying, he just drinks all of her blood, and it's like this is some cool ass vampire shit. I love seeing these cliches. I never get tired of them. I never get tired of seeing this shit. And at the end, the last shot is like her dead body, and boom, obviously she's a vampire now. How that happened? It's not. Is it a disease? Who knows? Who knows?
Yes, because they haven't done very few of the classical vampire tropes
In the
up
movie,
until this point. But at the very end, because he bit her, she's now a vampire. I'm like, okay, but I'll take it. It was a that's probably the one of the biggest nitpicks I have outside of the
Yeah,
post credit scenes.
But he is still like a purely scientific
yeah,
vampire in this,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
like the vampire bats that he's studying aren't like supernatural or anything
no,
like
not at
that.
all.
It's just like hormones and shit, right?
Yeah, yes, it totally is. They
Okay,
make a very big point of that. But
okay.
given how truncated the first half is, and some stuff that was cut out, I think that the original version of this movie was gonna make him supernatural. Okay, so there's this leak, and I kind of believe this leak because most of them were spot on, where it was gonna turn out that like Morbius, the vampires in that crypt were part of like some sort of long-standing kind of supernatural curse, and like it's the way that this old vampire demon kind of dude, um, kind of like possesses new hosts by making them
Mm.
vampires
Mm.
through these vampire bats in his cave. And there's
Oh,
like this,
okay.
and there's this bit in the trailer that isn't in the movie where like Morbius is like destroying this like evil looking sarcophagus, and like where did he get a sarcophagus, and why is that cut out of the movie, and what was that sarcophagus about? And I feel like that probably maybe ties in to that. That maybe if there was like this supernatural explanation for why he's a vampire and why these vampire bats are special, and he had to go to like this very specific evil looking cave in Costa Rica, that might have been it. But other than that, no, they cut all that shit out.
Is this from the spoiler where they say that Matt Smith is playing Hunger?
Yeah,
Because I mean that character in the comic at least is an actual supernatural vampire, so maybe that was going to be a thing at some point.
I believe that if he was going to be Hunger, it might have been in name only because like
Yeah.
there's too much in the movie where he's just like a regular dude for that to be like true. Maybe at the end he would have gone like maybe there would have been like more stuff where he was like oh you're gonna if you drink so many people you're gonna be possessed 100% by this evil demon or something
Mm,
like that. But like there's not enough there to like really be sure about that. But I think that there might
yeah.
have been some stuff that hinted more at supernatural things because
Mm,
what the fuck was that sarcophagus about? It's like in the trailer, it's like this little mummy, mummy thing, and they like, where did that come from? Where did it go? You know. But other than that, what were your thoughts on this, AJ? Because you've seen it.
My thoughts were that the internet is being way too hard on it. Like, this is not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. There are times where it's ranges from an okay to barely good movie, but all the carrying on, I don't. Well, I get it, but I don't get it. Right? It's like DC has finally gotten their stuff together, so the hate crowd on the internet is like, okay, well now let's move on to Sony now to you know complain about them, I guess, trying to build up a cinematic universe, but having the nerve to dare do it in a way slightly different from the MCU, and also to not have Kevin Feige's name attached to one of these films, because I think he was a producer on. Was he a producer on the first Venom or the second? I don't know, but I
I think the
think this one
first.
the first. Okay, yeah, I think this one he didn't have anything to do with at all. So the internet just decided to just shit all over it. I guess like the movie's fine, guys. It's the same as any other middle of the road super or comic book film. I'm not gonna call Morbius a superhero, but
What are you
it's
talking
largely
about?
fine.
It says Marvel Legend right now. It says right there on the poster. But I want to go into like my list of favorite criticisms. Like there are so many things about this movie. I even criticize the movie. I spent like the first 20 minutes of the review criticizing the
Yeah,
movie, because it's not perfect, and
like
but it yeah,
my
go on.
criticism. Let's go get back. My criticism largely is going to be, like I said, the stuff with the girlfriend at the end. Like, oh, she's a vampire now. But my largest criticism is stuff that's not even in the main movie. It's the post-credit scenes. Neither one of them makes sense in context
We're gonna get into that later. I feel like
at all. But yeah, I figured.
we're
But
gonna get into a
those are
big
my
fight
only
about that.
criticisms.
I think we're gonna get into a big fight about that because I think they make perfect
Okay.
sense. But no, my big
Eh,
criticism really are that there's so much in the movie that feels cut out. Like it feels like a hatchet job of a film. But then
mhm.
again, is that any different than a lot of these fucking movies? You know? Like, what makes it
No, it's
so
not.
special? And I want to go into like my list of favorite bad faith criticisms I heard. But I do want to ask Connor Bullski, since he hasn't watched it, what are your thoughts and what other questions do you have?
Are we talking about the public feedback now, or are we just saving that for a special segment?
I say that for like just after this. I want to get
Okay.
your thoughts of Morbius and also
Um.
any questions you have because you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I did not think this movie would ever come out. To be honest, it's just I don't know what I think about it. I never had any kind of particular relationship to Morbius, the character in the comic. Like, he was one of those characters that was always kind of there. And I remember him a little bit from the animated series that we talked about, where he sucked blood through his hands.
Hmm.
But that was
Plasma.
my plasma. Sorry, yeah, plasma exactly. But I never felt like with Venom. I always felt like I would like to see a good movie with Venom or an entertaining movie with Venom, because I like the character. I think he's fine and he's a fun character. Morbius just was never on my radar. Like, I never wanted to see a movie about Morbius. But I don't know. I'm surprised that they actually made this movie, that it came out. And I'm also surprised at the reaction to it. But again, we will get into that. But yeah, it's not a movie that I ever wanted to see made. But good for them, I guess.
All right, so you have no other questions about like what's in this movie or like what happens or anything like that.
Well, I mean, you explained it pretty well. It's basically your standard vampire movie, like with
Yeah,
the tortured protagonist vampire movie, right?
yeah.
So, and the bad guy is, the dark mirror of the hero, which we've never seen
Yeah.
before.
He's a huge ripoff of the Evil Ed from Fright Night too. Like, he has the same character arc as Evil
Yeah,
Ed. If you haven't seen Fright Night, you should. It's so good.
I have seen it. It was a long time ago, but I have seen it. But yeah, no, I don't. I feel like you probably summarized everything about the movie, except for what does the vulture do in that post credit scene? Nothing.
We're gonna get into that after.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a special segment too.
Okay, well, I don't have any other questions about it because I don't think there's any major twists to it that you haven't mentioned, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Okay.
standard. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
So okay. So I want to preface this by saying that yes, Jared Leto is a complete freak who has like his own cult, who's probably and allegedly a sex pest, and I would not mind if he got like recast or fired or whatever for any of these next Sonyverse movies. All right. And a lot of people out there are like, I don't want to see Morbius. I think Morbius sucks because Jared Leto sucks as a human being. Fine. I have nothing to say against that. I can't argue against that. That's a completely valid thing if the actor is a vile person. All right. Like that's not even that. The thing is that that's only been like 0.0000001% of the criticism, Like
Yeah.
there's such an there's things about this film that are bad. They are pretty bad, pretty flawed, and just very obvious. And yet the biggest reactions we've seen are from like the most insane variety, like old school Man of Steel style bad faith criticism.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one because it definitely reminded me of that.
But
Yep.
like, while Man of Steel has like really amazing stuff in it, Morbius is just a mediocre movie. You don't have to go this hard, like Man of Steel. You do have to like go really really over the top to make some of the things you have to complain about seem valid. Morbius, you can just say like, oh yeah, the first half is complete shit show of editing. Okay, good. I can't argue against that. I agree with you. Well, then, let me go over some of my favorite ones. All right. One, it's the worst. It's the worst Marvel movie so far because it only cares about setting up an eventual crossover. All right.
Have you seen Iron Man 2?
Have you seen Doctor Strange?
Have you seen
Yes.
any MCU movies ever?
Very true.
um, fucking Captain Marvel. The only or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is always my go-to in that kind of direction. But yeah, jeez.
WandaVision.
Uh,
Oh my god, the list
Cap-
goes on.
Captain Marvel is probably the most egregious example, honestly. But yeah,
Okay, Civil War. Civil War. All right. But yeah, again, insanity. Insanity. All right. Let's go. What else? What else did I see? All right. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. Um, I saw. Okay, there's a clip going online where Morbius tells a joke, and it's a Hulk joke, or like it's a joke. The movie is telling a joke. All right. Morbius as a character isn't telling the joke per se, but the movie is setting up a joke where he's like he's starting to go through like plasma withdrawal, right? Because he drinks plasma, that's the thing. Um, and he's like, I'm hungry. You gotta give me my plasma. You won't like me when I'm hungry. All right. And so someone like clipped those like that 10-second he says that and says like, wow, what is this movie even? Oh my god, it's meant to be funny. And I'm like, it's just a small reference, man. Moon Knight came out the same day, and it's like, oh, you mean Avatar with the blue people, or you mean the anime? Anime is pretty good. That's a line from Moon Knight. All right, and everyone loves fucking Moon Knight, But like but the worst part wasn't even that. It was that like everyone was like, it's just a simple joke, right? And like why does this have like 300 retweets? People saying it's like the worst thing ever, and it's people responding to that kind of comment being like, what do you mean? It's not meant to be a joke. Morbius means it seriously. And I'm like, there's a difference between what a character is saying and what the movie is intending mood wise, And I feel
Yeah,
like,
and if you actually watched the movie
yeah,
and not just a clip online, you would understand that.
yeah.
yeah,
And the thing is, right, like, I feel like that's a representative of people, especially MCU heads, right? No longer being able to tell that a joke is meant to be a joke unless it breaks the tone of the scene and tells the audience it's a joke. Like
Hmm.
every single Marvel movie in the last 3 years, you know, where like you're
yeah.
like oh, you mean your name is Dr. Otto Octavius? Like for real? Huh? Oh, what's your real name? Like that shit. All right, from No Way Home.
Yep.
And like, okay, so I guess it's insanity. It's insanity. But let's go on. Um, all right, what else do I have here? Oh, my favorite one. My favorite one was what's it called? Okay, so another person like posted a clip of like the 30 seconds where Morbius learns how to fly, and they were like, "Oh, anything to reach 90 minutes, huh?" And I'm like, have you never seen a superhero movie before where they learn how to do things? The fact that he's just taking like
Like
it's insanity.
the internet, even the people who hate Man of Steel love the first flight of Superman. Is it's the same principle. Yeah, is it executed as well? No,
But it's just
but
like a
I mean,
standard
come on, guys.
scene.
This isn't something we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, um, or okay, the CGI as well. People were ragging on the CGI. And like, the CGI isn't like fantastic, but like these are like over the top vampire men with like gigantic fangs and pig noses.
Hmm.
Yep.
It's not going to be like excellent. And like we just spent like 15 weeks talking about whether or not it was okay to like green screen people walking past like a Brooklyn street in No Way Home. Like
Yeah.
you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And again, it's a bunch of this stuff. And like again, if this criticism was all about the movie's actual flaws, I wouldn't say anything. I would have nothing to say because I agree with all of that. I may enjoy it, but like the stuff of this movie is like it's not that great. It's just okay. Like because it's okay because there's lots of fun stuff in it, and you leave feeling entertained. Um, but again, you get stuff like, oh, I can't believe that Sony would be so lazy to have Morbius fight against another vampire. Like every superhero movie since they were invented does that. The
Yep.
only, the only ones that ever did that were like the old school 30s serials. That's because just having a guy in a domino mask with a gun was cheaper for Captain Marvel to fight. All right. Oh no, Flash Gordon, he's fighting a guy with a gun. That was cheaper back then, but no. There's like countless examples, and like just really low pot shots that don't need to be there. And okay, a mutual of mine, Richard Newby, who I don't agree with all that often because he's like a really big MCU fan, and he's like get like really, really sort of like biased a little bit. He wrote like an article about like how people were against the movie from the beginning, and it's pretty obvious they were because they've been against all these movies, all of Sony's kind of moves, and people have been like dogpiling on him, saying like, no, people just have real criticisms, and you're just trying to do like chill damage control, and like, well, if your criticisms are that vampire fights another vampire or vampire learns he can fly, those aren't valid criticisms.
Right. Like I said, it's 2016 in DC all over again. They've just moved on to a new target, bro. Like it's this a lot of this same level of just not even surface level criticism, just straight up asinine stuff to complain about. It's like, really, guys, like I'm by no means saying that this film is perfect. It's a lot of times it's not even good in parts, but I mean, like Elvis said, there's actual stuff in this movie worth complaining about other than the BS you guys are bringing up.
Exactly.
But it's definitely not a crime against cinema or whatever the fuck they're trying to
not
push
at
it off
all.
as. Like they're making such a big deal out of it that it's ridiculous.
Oh, my favorite one was like, I can't believe Sony lied to us in those trailers. Oh, I said that already, right? But here's the funny part: is that like they keep Spider-Man references in. We see the Daily Bugle with like the old school logo a bunch of times. Like, no one lied to you that much. Oh no, this one shot of Spider-Man graffiti wasn't in. Who cares? Who cares? They're still setting it up. All right. So who fucking cares?
And we know that the people who are arguing this, they are the same people who did that cancel Sony thing. They are people who desperately want Sony to fail so that they'll give the Spider-Man rights back to Disney, sorry. So that Disney can do like a pure MCU version of Spider-Man, because that's, obviously is going to be the...
Yeah, I mean, we saw how great they did with the Home trilogy, right? Those are perfect movies. With a perfect story, because... but like,
I love Iron Man Kid. He's my favorite. He's my favorite character in the Marvel universe. I wish they did Spider-Man though.
My favorite thing is that like it took 3 movies to tell the Uncle Ben origin story after saying that they already did it.
Except it's Aunt Ben.
Oh my God, I didn't see that coming after 3 years, where she's in 1 minute of the movie each.
What a surprise!
Oh my God. Anyway, and so the funny thing is that Kevin Feige was even like trending today because there were a bunch of people saying Kevin Feige would have done this better. Kevin Feige needs to take control. And like, why? What would he do different? Because these are exactly the same movies that MCU would be making. All right. And in fact, I trust Sony and Tom Hardy more to steward this shit than the MCU at this point. All right. Because Doctor Strange 2, 2.5 hours long. Who cares? Who cares? Sinister 6, sign me up, all right? Because Michael Keaton as Captain Cold is pretty good. He's not Vulture, he's Captain Cold, but I'll take more. Hook me up. But speaking of that, let's talk about that post-credit scene, all right? I'll set it up because a bunch of people are lying about what this post-credit scene is. And the fact of the matter is that the director spoiled the post-credit scene, and people are still just lying about it. All right. So the first scene, there's 2. It's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. The mid-credits is clearly a scene from the middle of the movie. Okay, you see the trailers. You see like Michael Morbius being arrested and taken to jail, and Michael Keaton being taken out of jail. Now, the first scene is clearly from that small little subplot, and it's at the end of No Way Home. There's a giant spell that Doctor Strange casts that removes everyone who knows who Spider-Man is, either from the universe or the memories, right? And Michael Keaton apparently got caught up with that because he knows who Spider-Man is. That was set up in Homecoming. So that makes sense to me, AJ. That makes sense to me. All right,
Go ahead.
all right,
It's the
and
second one that is mainly problematic. But go ahead.
anyway, and he like gets sent to the Morbius universe, the Venomverse, and he's like, huh, I guess I guess I'm in another universe. That seems pretty cool. And then we get like a pan over to a different scene, clearly from a different part of the movie. Because there's a scene where like a character is watching the news, and that's clearly where that scene was going to be. But they splicing together into one scene where a newscaster is saying a mysterious man named Adrian Toombs appeared in a prison, but because there's no record of him, we're letting him go. That kind of shit. Like okay. Then like the end credit scene is like Morbius flying um riding out into
Not
like
flying
riding out in his car. It's like a
because
farmland.
because he needs to drive. Obviously,
The car was probably product section. I'll agree with that.
yeah. That scene was a reshoot, and they didn't have the budget to do
Yeah.
CGI flying.
Although, yeah, he looked pretty cool flying though. Anyway, into a farmland, and he's looking at his watch, which also counts down how much plasma he has left, all that kind of shit. Um, and then Michael Keaton in a new Vulture suit with a much better helmet because it has like a silver stripe that looks like a beak. Awesome looking. Flies down. And he says like, I because they would have met in the deleted scene that they didn't keep in. He's like, thank you for meeting here, Doctor. Like I'm from another universe, but I don't know how I got here. Probably Spider-Man, but I think we could probably team up and do some good. And then Michael Morbius like sounds pretty interesting, and that's where it ends. But the kicker is that if you look at so many reviews, written, online, YouTube reviews, people will describe this scene as saying, and then Vulture says they should get revenge and kill Spider-Man, which doesn't happen in the scene. People keep lying. And I see we have 4 viewers. I'm going to tell you right now, people are lying about what this cutscene says. All right. It's not all Vulture should kill Spider-Man. It's Vulture wants to create the Sinister Six of anti-heroes. All right. Which might not be better to you, but it's definitely better when people are making reviews saying, this ruins Vulture's character, or this doesn't make sense with Homecoming because he and Spider-Man made up. Well, good. It doesn't, because he doesn't want to kill Spider-Man. All right? That's not what happens. People are lying for clout to like get a dig at Sony or whatever, but they're lying to you. Anyway, AJ, what were your thoughts?
Okay, the first well, I guess that's a mid-credit scene, where they do the poofy magic light show where Doctor Strange is uh and Peter Parker are breaking the universes over in what's that, No Way Home, and yeah, Adrian Toombs ends up in the Sony universe. Okay, mostly fine. Like Elvis says, you can tell it's definitely a scene that is supposed to be inside of the actual movie. So it doesn't make a ton of sense, just tacked on at the end like that. But fine, you can overlook that. The second scene, that's the one I have most of my problems with. One, like I already said, Morbius is driving when we've just spent half a movie watching him fly. Yeah, I get it. In the actual reality of things, it's, hey, this scene was most likely a reshoot. They didn't want to go spend a whole bunch of money to do the effects with him flying, like the CGI cloud he would have behind him and stuff. All that costs money. I get the Vulture showing up. One, how does he have a new suit with what looks like mostly the same technology, but that technology had, like, I think Chitari stuff in it, if I remember correctly from what was that, Homecoming? So how is he having access to any of that in this universe? And then the just them, like he said, the talking about the Sinister Six part and the bringing up Spider-Man. I'm like, but why? And then too, you're in a new universe, so even if this is a Spider-Man, it's not the Spider-Man that puts you in jail.
But he's not.
So
He's not. Well, you think he wants to get rid of Spider-Man?
I don't know if it's so. I don't know if it's so much as revenge. I just know he mentions.
Yeah, he
At
said
least
he's
I'm fairly certain. Yeah, he mentioned Spider Man, like him having something to do with it. All right, if you're gonna do a team up and potentially go after this guy, which I hope that's not what they're doing.
that's not even implied though.
No, I understand it's not. I'm just saying I hope that it's not where they're going. Just I look at villains or quasi villains and hear team up. I start suspecting things of what they're gonna do. But like I said, this is me getting ahead of myself. Um, I just hope that they're not gonna do that because, like I said, it doesn't make sense because it's a different Spider-Man. The Jesus Christ, I just lost my train of thought. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah, I lost it. It's gone. But yeah, the second scene didn't make a ton of sense to me. Like I said, it's a nitpick, nowhere near what people online are making it out to be. But that's my thoughts on the post credit scenes. That's the only really parts of the movie that I have major problems with, besides the girlfriend becoming a what looks like a more traditional vampire when we've had non-traditional vampires for an entire movie. But okay, let's go.
So what are your thoughts, Comrade?
So, okay, so let me get this straight. So, in Let There Be Carnage, when Venom turns on the TV and he sees Spider-Man, that's not the Spider-Man in the MCU. That's a different Spider-Man
No,
that
no,
only
no, no,
exists in the Sony universe, or what's going on
no, no. He okay. What happens is at the beginning, at the end of Let There Be Carnage, which is the beginning. Okay, so all right, it's gonna be a little bit. It's
I
gonna be a
want to
little bit.
say that's the point in No Way Home where
The
they
first spell gets happened.
right, yeah.
All right, and then at the end of No Way Home, which is the ending of Morbius, where Vulture gets sent from his universe, the MCU, to the Venomverse. But in the end of Let There Be
Oh,
Carnage, what Venom sees is the MCU because he gets transferred to the MCU.
okay. Right, right, right. Um, yeah. So they're okay. So what they're doing is that they're doing a Sinister Six team in a universe where there's no Spider-Man at all.
No, but I have a
Okay.
theory. It's gonna be Sinister Six versus Venom
Well, that could work.
because, like, isn't Venom really their Spider-Man?
Mm.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes and no. I could see a situation where, seeing as how much success, I use that word loosely, that they've had with No Way Home, I can easily see a situation where probably not McGuire, but I can see them. Oh, Andrew Garfield, hey, you want to come do another movie? Yeah, you're our Spider Man again.
oh
Or,
no.
or, or there's like a totally different thing where like Sony could cast like their own Spider-Man that just does cameos and shit in their movies.
Yeah, okay.
Which I would be cool if, like, it'd be cool. Maybe get like a live action Miles Morales that way. Because, like, let's be honest, that Donald Glover bit was like everyone's like, oh, see that implies that Miles Morales exists. Like, they were never gonna do any of that.
Mm.
Like the fucking MCU's plan was always to make like 9 of these Tom Holland movies, as many Tom Holland movies as they can. They were never gonna introduce Miles Morales Spider-Man. So like, if like Sony
Hmm.
wants to have their own Spider-Man that isn't Venom, which I think would probably work the best, uh, let's have Miles there. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean that would be a chance for Miles to actually be a character and not just be a side character because
Right.
I think that was like the good thing that they did with Into the Spider-Verse was
Yeah.
that it was like a Miles Morales movie with
Yeah.
the other Spider people as side characters to that,
Mm.
which I think worked really well for that movie. And I mean, yeah, sure, like make him the Spider-Man of the Sonyverse if you want to. That's fine. Like, I'll be cool with that.
But yeah, overall, like, again, it's not a great movie, and it is the like, art post credit scenes kind of cringe. Yeah, kind of like I think it might be something to do with Spider Man. Like, okay, yeah, that's a little bit forced. It's a little bit explanatory. People are saying, oh, the post credit scenes are only set up and too much exposition. But like on the other hand, yeah, you have that. But then you remember things like how Bucky's entire character arc was resolved in post credit scenes, and you're
Hmm.
like, I guess I can like forgive. I can forgive that because you know what? It's bad. The whole double standards. It is.
I mean, every MCU post-credit scene is just a teaser or a lead-in for something. Like,
Yeah.
to the point where they have actually cancelled post-credit scenes because they weren't sure that they were actually going to be able to bridge it into the next movie. Like, you know how Iron Man 3 was originally going to end with him meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
That was going to be the
Yeah.
post-credit scene, and they had to cut it because they didn't know if they could sign up Robert Downey Jr. for another movie, and they were like, "Oh no, we can't make that scene. That's the only reason that it doesn't have like a bridging scene at the end." So yeah, no, it's all of these complaints are just, yeah, they're not, they don't have a good basis in reality.
Yeah. And like I said, there's so much you could talk to me about. Um, like how the movie only has like it has a thing where like the climax is just so abrupt. And again, it's one of those things where like you could tell this movie's in tatters, you know?
Mm.
And like even the director is like, there's so much B-roll in this movie that I didn't do, which is a shame because I feel like the stuff that like really had like a creative presence, I credit the director for that. So if there was a director's cut, I'd love to see that too. Okay, the director, I think is a cool dude. You know, he might be people might be misconstruing and using his words in interviews, his very candid words, to like create bad faith criticism. But like, I think that you know he deserves a chance to like do a full movie. You know, if he was wrong that way.
Hmm.
And you mentioned that that you didn't like that Martine is her name, the character's name.
Yeah,
She becomes a vampire at the end. And I think that's maybe just a case of them being a little bit too literal with the comics, because, you know, that is what happened in the comic book with Morbius's girlfriend, Martine. You know, she became a vampire because he transferred his whatever it is to her, and she became a villain for him for a while. So maybe they were really just going, oh, but this happened in the comic. I'm sure it'll be like, we'll do something with it eventually.
I guess that. I guess she was probably gonna be like the villain in the second one, which would probably be cool. It'd probably give her something more to do because like you could tell like a lot of what she had was probably cut because
Yeah.
she disappears from the movie. She disappears like a lot from the movie, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's probably more to like her helping Morbius make the serum, her helping Morbius like create like an antidote, all that kind of shit.
I think also it's like Morbius doesn't have a lot of supporting characters in the comics because, I mean, he hasn't had a lot of solo series to begin with, and he doesn't have a lot of villains that are like unique to him. So I think having her in it, she's like at least a semi-recognizable character. So maybe they were going for that. I don't know. Maybe it was too much.
Maybe. But anyway, what were your final scores for these B? Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
What kind of scale are we using?
You're okay. Let's say 5 is average, middle of the road, and then anything below is below average. Anything above is above average.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I'll start it off. Venom 1. Just Venom. I'm going to go 8.5. Let There Be Carnage. I'm thinking a 7. And then Morbius. I'm somewhere between a 6 and 6.5 with Morbius. I haven't decided yet. I'll probably need to see it again.
My jaw's on the floor because I did not expect that. Because I'm gonna say right now, Venom. I'm gonna give it like a 7, like a hard 7 though, hard 7.
Okay.
Let There Be Carnage. I'm gonna give that like a 5, and I'm gonna give like Morbius.
Ooh.
I'm gonna give Morbius like a 5.5 to a 6. But again, I mean like 5, like it's average. It's like
Right.
right on the line.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
I was gonna say the exact same thing as you did. I was gonna say Venom 1, 7, and then Let There Be Carnage 5, and then Inapplicable because I haven't seen Morbius yet. But yeah, that's exactly how I feel about those movies really right now.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm excited for Sinister Six. I'm willing to give Craven a chance. Madam Web might actually be cool if they do a lot of stuff because I think a lot of people's conception of Madam Web is from the cartoon, And I feel like
Yeah,
I feel
Oh
exactly.
like,
yeah.
I like
Where she's voiced by Stan Lee's wife.
who did a really creepy job. She always had a creepy ass
Yeah.
voice. Like she's really good at that. Like, and like that would be really cool to see. Like I feel like these movies have a very cartoon influence to them. Like
But if they're doing Madam Web now, I mean they're building towards the Spider Verse thing, and then I
exactly.
mean they have to. It has to be Julia Carpenter, like that version of Madam Web, the Dan Slott version. I'm sure of it, right?
Yeah, I
The
mean,
one with the trench coat and stuff. You know, she runs around and says mysterious stuff.
yeah. I mean, I think they cast Dakota Johnson, so it's probably gonna be that. But then
Yeah.
again, I feel like we could also get some of that creepiness in it. I feel like these movies have like a very '90s cartoon influence on them. Like again, plasma, plasma.
Yeah. Yes.
It's ridiculous that they kept that, and stuff like that. So
But I
like,
mean, I think, as you said, I think that's where people remember Morbius from. If they know him from anything, it's from that cartoon. So
yeah,
I mean, they're gonna make a nod to that, and it's gonna be the plasma thing, obviously.
yeah. But overall, I'm excited for that. And again, yeah, it's obvious that their plan is to like have Sinister Six be like their Avengers, and then like have Spider Verse be like their end game. And you know what? I'm willing to give that one a chance too. You know, and also bring on Venom with Protector. If that's not the title, I owe you guys a Coke. All right, because
Okay.
But the first Venom movie is the storyline from the comic called Lethal Protector. You
yeah,
know, like this is very confusing.
yeah,
Well, no, actually, wait. They can bring him the Life Foundation symbiotes for the third one.
again, yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's somebody's gonna be able to make new symbiotes at some point.
yeah.
I,
You always go back to the
I,
beginning. You always go back to the beginning for the third part of a trilogy. It's the rule.
exactly, yeah. And there's gonna be some new Life Foundation thing, villain person thing,
Yeah.
and then Toxin gets involved. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, what about you guys? Excited for what's to come?
Uh, I mean, I'm gonna go with yes. I'm gonna go with yes. I think they've had some bumps in the road, but it's definitely a change of pace from what we're getting, especially on the Disney Marvel side of things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what's coming.
Yeah, I like the unpredictability. I have no idea what's gonna come, like what kind of movie the next one's gonna be at all. Like I have no idea what kind of tone the Craven movie is gonna have. So I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna like it, but I'm happy that it's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's so funny because people were like, there was like set footage of like Craven like climbing onto like a moving jeep, like barefoot, like Tarzan style. And people were like, "This movie looks like shit." So like, oh, it's so good to know we're already starting the discourse on this. Like
Yeah.
what? Like what? What do you want? Like again, like okay, yeah, he's not like in the jungle or anything like that, but like Craven's still doing some Craveny stuff. So like, simmer down, motherfuckers.
I mean, they're obviously gonna do some of the Craven's Last Hunt stuff, where he's always running around in a loincloth and stuff
Yeah,
and doing Tarzan shit. They're obviously gonna allude to that. So, yeah, calm down, people.
like it's gonna be a spy movie. Like, what are you even on?
But I'm glad that they're taking a more varied approach than what they were gonna do in the Amazing Spider-Man series. You remember that bit at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2 where like all of the Sinister Six's technology is in that vault?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which I listened to some other podcast, and they called it like, oh, it's the basement of origins. You
Oh
just
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
down there and you become a supervillain. Like,
Yeah, Mr. Sunday movies, right?
yes, that was the one.
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly, the basement of origins. You just go down there and you become a Sinister Six villain
Yeah,
immediately. Great.
yeah, like oh my god, that scene at the end where like the guy in the bowler hat just like
Yes.
stops in front of the rhino suit, and then the next scene is just the guy has the rhino suit. Like okay, we're not even caring
Like
about that one.
way to just make all of the villains like totally interchangeable and uninteresting. Like okay, they just go down there and get a suit from that guy, and that's the plot. Like okay, I mean I don't know if that was what they were gonna do, but it didn't look
Very
great.
very clearly. But
Just
yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see what happens. But honestly, it was really good to have you guys on. Why don't you guys tell me where they can find you? AJ, you start.
Sure. As always, well, if you've listened to anything I've been on with Elvis before, you can find me on Twitter at Mr. underscore Mitchell underscore the letter, the number two underscore the letter U. I'm there giving hot takes on the daily.
And what about you, comrade?
So I can be found at Comrade underscore Bullski on Twitter most of the time, which is, yeah, that's generally where I give my opinions about stuff. So if you want to get my opinion on comics, go there.
Awesome. All right. So thank you guys so much for being here. I want to thank the people, like kind of like 3 to 5 at most, but these things usually take time. Like I think I average like about 100 views overall on these. So hopefully we changed some hearts and we changed some minds and we made a difference in the world of comic book movies today. Just talking about these, just being like really kind of unfiltered about them, what we really genuinely think. We're not Sony shills here. I think we said enough bad things about each of these to discount that. But
I think the scores we gave alone should be proof that we aren't really shilling these movies.
yeah, like these are not 9 out of 10 films you should run out to see, but like you should probably see them when they go on streaming or something. Give them a shot.
Absolutely.
But overall, thank you guys so much. Thank you to the audience. Please leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Give us your thoughts on the Spider-Verse, Sonyverse, Sinister Six verse, and what you think about it. Oh, we have a comment. I didn't even notice. Oh, Steph, thank you so much for being here. You should have said something earlier. If you're coming in late, hope you can rewatch everything. I think it's a pretty fun one. And let me know your thoughts on Twitter as well. Leave a comment on my post about this so I know what you think. But thank you so much for being here. And yeah, just in general, let us know what you think about these. Are you excited? Are you not excited? And if we didn't change your minds, why? Because I want to hear those too. I'm no echo chamber here. Anyway, thank you so much, and let's all say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
And we'll catch you next time.
Indeed. All right. See ya.